when we come together. Racism, we feel shame. No one wants to take the blame. To the fire we all will hang. With love we can change when we all come together.
Somewhere out there in the world, you're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. This is AM 1370, the Region's Choice, and of course, the People's Voice. And it's Happy Monday to you. What a beautiful weather kind of day we've had. Lots of clouds, but that's okay. It was rather humid this morning, and then it started getting really windy, and I thought, oh, it's going to pour, but, you know, looks are deceiving, and it's been like that for a while already. Remember the Sound Off number here to call is 219-885-1371. It's been a fun-filled day, productive day for a whole bunch of us. And the views expressed by the host and the callers of this show are not necessarily the views of WLTH Radio management, owners, and sponsors. I want to thank you for coming on with me here via Ustream.tv, WLTH1370.com. And, of course, anyone that'd like to advertise, you know, we love advertisements. The more anything, we do it for you. You have a business, small business, and you want to advertise, please do so by calling me office at 885-1370. And, of course, Natalie Amons, much love to her. She is our radio manager here on WLTH Radio. And yesterday, I kind of missed a good show yesterday because that's right up my alley. We're talking about violence. We're talking about solutions. I imagine that that's what they were talking about yesterday. I did not get a chance to tune in, listen in, chime in, add to what the rest of the hosts that were here talking about. But, you know, I can add to, and I'm sure that some of you that have already been tuning in for a while here on WLTH Radio and listening to this show, you know that I'm very adamant about education. But more than anything, I am more about the solutions. And for those of you that are following me on Twitter or on Facebook, we are working on a solution. And the school city of Hammond, the school city of Chicago, and the school city of Gary have this curriculum that I'm using for a freshman class, and we know it works. And for those of you that are watching me on Ustream, here's the 3 books that we have. These are solutions. This is a wonderful tool to use, and I'm sure that you guys have heard me mention it before. You have heard mothers that are crying and lost, asking for peace and justice for their loved ones that they've lost due to violence, is the From the Barrio Foundation books. And the curriculum is $5,000 gifted. It is free. It's gifted to anyone that's wanting to use it. You know, we all ask about solutions. We all want solutions. Well, let's stop talking and work on them. They're right here. We have from the Little Barrio, based on the book From the Barrio to the Boardroom and Mi Barrio, of course, by Robert Renteria, as told to Corey Michael Blake. This is actually like a coloring book. For those of you that are on Ustream or watching me live here, this is a coloring book that we can reach our younger kids, first graders, kindergarten, second graders. And then for middle school kids, we got the comic novel. This is Mi Barrio, based on the book, of course, From the Barrio to the Boardroom. And if you guys are, like I said, watching on Ustream, you actually get to see some of the pictures. And we have them in Spanish. Los tenemos en español. I co-edited the comic novel, Mi Barrio, in Spanish. And we have to high school all the way to adulthood, From the Barrio to the Boardroom. Those of you that are following me on Twitter and on Facebook, you have seen students in pictures with this book in front of them. And they are working the curriculum, and it's in Hammond, Indiana. There was an after-school program in East Chicago that actually started using this a couple years ago. So the Barrio Foundation has been out there for a while, and we are having a peace march, and I'll say we because I'm including myself, and that's with Father Flager out there in Chicago, South Side, and St. Sabina, that's coming up as well. And, well, we're going to be giving away barrio books in exchange for guns and gangs and booze and drugs. I believe that's I think that's a great trade-off, if you would ask me. And so that walk is coming up this month already. Do you believe that? We're already in June 2nd, and it's 9 minutes after the hour here on WLDH Radio. Sound off numbers 219-885-1371. Anyone interested in getting this curriculum, please contact me, Eve Gomez Enterprise at gmail.com, Eve Gomez Enterprise at gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to send it to you. Jamie, much love to you. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and also sharing information about what other school cities' issues are. And bullying is one of the biggest issues at hand that are not, let's say, the political people and the administration isn't doing anything to solve that. So there are youth and parents that would like to talk with me. I guess they know that I have a big mouth, or I must be doing something right? So they are discussing things, and then we'll be meeting soon because these are in areas where you don't normally hear issues at hand, like Valparaiso, Crown Point, Maryville, Lowell, in those areas where you don't normally hear that there's bullying. Well, I'm going to get a copy of their handbook to find out why aren't they doing anything. Is it even in their policy to do something pertaining to bullying and violence? And you see, I got from K to 12, you can't go wrong with this. The kids, I'm actually going to be doing a survey towards the end of the week, Thursday, and that way we know how it's benefiting our youth. But more than anything, just by having someone that cares, someone that's listening to them, changes their perspective of life. Completely. And I know that because I see it firsthand, coming straight from the class. And I want to give a shout out to the Morton High School, Mr. Easton and the staff there, and Mrs. Ekdahl. That happens to be her class. It's great, and just great being part of their change. To me, it's a blessing. And the thing is that that's what I guess the show was about yesterday at 7 o'clock, pertaining to violence. Talk about solutions, what's needed, where are we going to go. There's so much empty lots, and when I say empty lots, we're talking about parking lots, the churches, some of the schools. We just need volunteers, because the issue at hand that everyone keeps talking about is funding, that we don't have enough funding. Well, then let's volunteer. We volunteer for just about everything, and why not volunteer for something like that? It's to keep our kids occupied and safe from being put in danger or causing harm to other people, because kids do get bored immediately. They get bored so fast, it's not even funny. And also, I want to give a shout out to the sorority that we were with BOLTEP this past Saturday, the Bowl-a-thon. It was fun. I think I mentioned that Saturday. It was really fun. And we're going to have a walk in July, so I'll bring that information to you in the near future. And also, let's see if this took place. I know that there's going to be a walk out here in this month. I just don't have the information in front of me just yet. But we want to partner with people from Illinois to come to Indiana and be part of the walk, and vice versa. People from from Indiana will be going to Illinois and join Father Pfleger and his walk, because I believe that the more prayers that come together, the more powerful things can be, and as they say, pray until something happens. So I'm actually looking for the information here, but I know that Father Pfleger had emailed me all the information about his walk. And, some people say, well, walk may be good, walk may not be good. I said, well, it will be good just so long as we have prayer. And the more people we bring together, the more powerful that prayer will become. I'm trying to look for Father Pfleger's information so that I can share it with you. And as I said, those that have lost their loved one, they are getting together in East Chicago every Thursday at 6 o'clock. Anyone that's interested to be part of that, so that would be a great thing as well. And I was stunned. I was reading an article. And I know, some of you probably say, Eve, don't waste your time putting cops down, talking negative about them. But something stuck out of this for me to say, okay, Omar, we got to play this. We have to put this out here. Police officers, to be honest with you, I don't know if it happens or if it's going on where the police officers are going through an evaluation yearly, like how we do a work performance or a work evaluation. I don't know if police officers have a psychological evaluation yearly. I think they should have it, and it should be mandatory, because not so much that police officers are crazy or what have you, it's just they go through so much trauma, not just drama, but trauma, that I'm sure it affects them one way or another, especially if they don't know how to separate that and bring it home, and then it's so much that they can't handle it. So it just caught my attention, and this is pertaining to a police officer that tried to cover up something that took place. And I feel bad for this young lady, that what actually happened. So I'm sorry, police officers aren't always out there to protect us. They're out there to protect themselves sometimes too. Don't get me wrong, I'm not attacking all police officers because somebody's ready to jump down my throat like it's happened before. This just stuck out of my head because of what happened to this young lady. Go ahead, Marcy, if you got it up and running. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E.
Sign and causes a violent crash, so we were wondering, why was the victim arrested?
The deputy's changing story may have changed one woman's life forever. Fox 6 investigator Brian Polson is here. He's been looking into it.
That's right. Brad and Tanya Weicker was hurt so badly in the crash she couldn't blow into a breath testing device or perform standard field sobriety tests. But another sheriff's deputy arrested her for drunk driving anyway, and the county hung those charges over her head for nearly a year, even long after blood tests proved she was perfectly sober.
There are some moments in life we choose to preserve, and others we just assume forget. For Tanya Weicker, one memory is especially painful.
I was just driving straight and he hit me.
Not just the crash that broke her neck in 4 places, but the false accusations that followed.
My reputation is everything to me.
At the age of 25, Weicker's criminal history is as flawless as her posture. She was diagnosed with cancer at age 3, and the prolonged radiation treatments literally curved her spine, so doctors inserted metal rods to keep her back straight. The lifelong medical complications have not stopped her from pursuing a college degree or from driving a car. In fact, Weicker had never gotten so much as a speeding ticket.
Can I have a moment to talk to you?
Until the night she crossed paths with Milwaukee County Deputy Sheriff Joseph Keelis.
I have nothing further to say, sir.
It was February 20th, 2013, and Deputy Keelis was working the night shift on patrol at Mitchell Airport. As he pulled out onto Howell Avenue to make his rounds, he T-boned a passing car and sent it spinning into a tree.
Very scary.
Weicker's spine was already fused with steel. Now, she had a fractured neck to go with it.
It was just a miracle that I wasn't paralyzed.
As rescue workers tended to Weicker, police and sheriff's deputies started asking questions.
One deputy asked if I had anything to drink that night, and I told him how I just had a few sips of a friend's drink.
A deputy noted a light odor of alcohol on her breath. He said her speech was slurred and her eyes looked red and glassy.
I explained to him that my eyes are only red and glassy because I was crying.
When asked about her use of prescription drugs, Weicker says she told the truth.
Just had gotten my wisdom teeth out, so they prescribed me Vicodin for that, and I told them it's been a little over a week since I took the Vicodin.
Her injuries were too severe to allow for any field sobriety tests. She couldn't even give a breath sample. But a deputy arrested her anyway for drunk driving, causing injury.
They made me into this criminal.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
Weicker's mom raced to the hospital to find deputies standing guard.
She was in traction. She was just laying there. And then she was crying, and she said they accused her, they arrested her, and they accused her of something that she didn't do.
Very unusual.
Her lawyer, Todd Korb, says the arrest is surprising since there was virtually no evidence that she was drunk.
I can't say that it was necessarily a cover-up, but it certainly is suspicious.
She was the suspect right from the start.
Drunk driving defense expert Andrew Mishlove says if deputies had cause to arrest her at all, it's only because of the statements made by the deputy involved in the crash.
If Deputy Files hadn't essentially blamed the accident on her, they never would have drawn her blood. They never would have arrested her.
In his official report, Deputy Keelis wrote that he stopped at the stop sign and looked both ways before pulling out. He said he never saw any headlights, even though Weicker's Camry had lights that come on automatically.
I knew I was innocent this whole time.
The truth might never have surfaced were it not for video from a nearby airport surveillance camera. It's hard to see, but investigators say that is Deputy Keelis heading west on Hutsteiner and turning onto Howell. You can see his vehicle doesn't make a complete stop, as Keelis claimed in his report. That's when Weicker comes into the picture and the cars collide. Moments later, Deputy Keelis turns on his lights and calls it in. The Sheriff's Department knew about the video just 2 days after the crash, but no one told Weicker. Instead, the county sent letter after letter blaming her for the crash and threatening legal action if she didn't pay for the damage.
So frustrating.
If Weicker had been drunk, it would have been easy to pin the blame on her. But less than a month after the crash, test results showed she had no alcohol in her system. And by July, her drug test came back negative too. 5 months after the crash, it was clear Weicker had been stone cold sober. But still, the case didn't go away.
I don't think it's fair at all.
5 more months passed before a prosecutor finally looked at the case and declined to file charges. But even then, Weicker says she was left in the dark.
No one called me.
She had to live with this hanging over her head for way too long.
It wasn't until 10 months after the crash that internal investigators at the sheriff's office conducted this interview with Deputy Keelis.
I've been told I rolled the stop sign at Howell and Hutsteiner.
Told that a video existed, he finally acknowledged his original statement was wrong.
You believe that you probably did roll?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And because of that, you believe they were at fault for this accident?
That's correct.
2 months ago, Deputy Keelis was still listed as active in the airport division of the sheriff's office, But he told the judge in his child support case that he's been on medical leave ever since the crash.
Can I have a moment to talk to you?
He was officially suspended for 9 days for violating traffic laws and damaging county equipment, but he was never disciplined for the inaccurate report that caused Weicker so much trouble.
I wrote my reports, and that's about it.
Can you explain why you said that you stopped completely?
Nothing further to say, sir.
Do you understand what Tanya Weicker's been through because of that? You changed your story, and she was treated like a criminal. Don't you think you owe her some answers?
I think he is just trying to protect himself and the department, to be honest.
At 95 pounds, Tanya Weicker may look like a pushover, but don't be fooled.
A lot of people are too afraid to stick up for themselves against someone in such high power.
After all, her spine is made of steel.
The DA declined to file charges against Weicker, and Deputy Keelis has admitted he was at fault. But Weicker is still waiting for the county to pay her medical bills. Her attorney says damages could top $1 million. However, state law puts a cap of $250,000 on claims against government agencies. Meanwhile, Weicker has filed a separate complaint against the deputy who arrested her, a different deputy, for the drunk driving. It could be a precursor to a civil rights lawsuit against the county, for which there is no cap on damages.
But what about the deputy who actually hit her? Is he going to be driving a patrol car at any time again?
It doesn't look like he's going to be driving one anytime soon. He hasn't worked in more than a year since the crash. He has exhausted his injury pay and has now apparently filed for permanent duty disability for injuries suffered in the crash he caused. That application is still pending before the county's employee retirement system. All of this despite the fact that reports written at the time of the crash indicate Deputy Keelis was treated and released for minor injuries.
Oh my goodness, so many layers. One of the things that stands out from you, you said the sheriff's department knew about this video 2 days after the crash, but never advised her, just kept on pushing away at this. Any word from Sheriff Clark on this?
I did ask for an interview on multiple occasions, and through a spokesperson, he declined, so I wasn't able to get a direct answer to that question.
Wow.
Thank you, Brian.
Wow.
You got it.
Wow, how about that? Knowing that they had evidence, they had that surveillance video, this poor woman suffered a year later, still pending, to get her medical bills paid for. But yet this police officer wants his stuff taken care of and to be paid for. Wow. Really? This is Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. It is 25 minutes after the hour, and this is the Region's Choice, the People's Voice. That says AM 1370. Sound Off numbers 219-885-1371 if you'd like to sound off. Something of what I've already spoken about. But here is the information for the Peace Walk, Friday, June 13th, 7 o'clock, 78th Place and Throop. First 500 people will receive a free T-shirt beginning at 6 p.m. They invite people throughout Chicago to stand up and declare their commitment to occupy our streets this summer to bring them out. And this is demand. This is our time to take a stand. And end of the school year march to proclaim peace in the streets. For more information, Faith Community of St. Sabina, 773-483-4300. 773-483-4300. This is with Reverend Michael Flager, Senior Pastor, and he has quite a bit of followers, 38,000 plus on his Facebook page. So he is doing great things in the community, but we're going to work together because Chicago Southside is right next door. So we need to unite and come together and more powerful for peace. So just wanted to share that with you. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. And I had shared something Saturday here on the radio, even though it was intentionally to be shared on my show. But because of what Juan in Nuestra Comunidad Noroeste de Indiana, our community in Northwest Indiana, his topic was about, what we started talking about. And I said, okay, well, I will read this. We do have somewhat of a different audience on Saturdays as well. But this stuck out. And, you know, had I been part of the violence talk yesterday show here on WLTH Radio, I would reiterate, and we're talking about all the shootings that have gone on in the country. Keep in mind of what I've been saying is the fact that these kids are left untouched, unnoticed, until something tragically happens. How we all miss the point on school shootings. Please pay attention. I'm going to be reading quite a bit of an article, but it makes sense. And if it caught my son's attention and said, yes, Mom, please reread this, that means it's got some key points. And it mainly backs me up with what I've been saying for the longest and what I've been seeing as well. So here it goes, guys. Here on WLTH Radio, this is Sound Off with E.V.E. AM 1370. I'm going to read half, then I'm going to pause. I don't know if we have any commercial breaks. No? Okay, awesome. In 1998, a high school junior named Eric Harris from Colorado wanted to put on a performance, something for the world to remember him by. A little more than a year later, Eric and his best friend Dylan Klebold would place bombs all over their school, bombs large enough to collapse large chunks of the building and to kill the majority of the 2,000 students inside, and then wait outside with semi-automatic weapons to gun down any survivors before ending their own lives. It'll be like the LA riots, the Oklahoma bombing, WW2 or World War II, Vietnam, Duke and Doom all mixed together. Eric wrote in his journal, maybe we will even start a little rebellion or revolution to F things up as much as we can. I want to leave a lasting impression on the world. Eric was a psychopath, but he was also smart. Despite what media outlets would later claim, Eric Harris was not the victim of bullying any more than other students. He was not a goth or a member of the trenchcoat mafia, quote unquote. Eric was a straight-A student. Eric was he had read the Nietzsche and Hemingway for fun. He had friends and girlfriends. He was charming and funny and had a disarming smile. But Eric also understood people, and because he understood people, he changed everything. By 1999, there had already been a series of school shootings across the United States. But Eric wasn't interested in those. They were small-time jobs, amateur hour. Eric was far more interested in Timothy McVeigh bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building, which killed 168 and injured 600. Eric wanted to top that, but he didn't just want to top the body count. He wanted to top the notoriety, the fame, the horror. He wanted to terrorize people, and he understood that his best weapon was not the guns he secretly purchased or the bombs he built in his basement. It was television. He would not kill jocks or preps. He would kill indiscriminately because that's what caused the most fear and got the most attention. He wouldn't just blow up the school, but he'd blow up the parking lot, the police cars, the firefighters, and the journalists who rushed to the scene. He would quite literally go out with a bang, the shockwaves of which, carried by mass media and the internet, would reverberate through the world for decades. On April 20th, Eric and Dylan arrived at Columbine and opened fire at teachers, students, administrators, janitors, and police officers. Eric's largest bombs failed to detonate and bring the building down as he had hoped, but that did not prevent the ensuing carnage that would last for almost an hour and leave 15 dead and 24 wounded. As chaos engulfed the school in Colorado, it would quickly fan out across the country, commanding more or less 24-hour television coverage for weeks on end. The drama would have replayed endlessly. Bloodied and crippled students climbing out of a library window, the heroic gym teacher who's lost his life saving dozens of kids, and then there would be the questions and the speculation. Why? First it was goth culture and Marilyn Manson, then it was bullying, then it was being social loners and outcasts. All of that explanations were later discovered to be untrue. The event truly seemed inexplicable. And because it was inexplicable, the media and the viewers couldn't let it go. Books were written. Memorials were built and ceremonies filled out. Eric Harris got his death wish. Quote, Columbine was a household name. This past weekend, a student named Elliot Roger, which was over a week ago, from Santa Barbara City College, killed 6 and injured 13. The latest in a long series of school shootings that are all but becoming a normal part of American tradition. As usual, the killer left a cache of material behind to explain his intentions and milk as much publicity for his personal grievances as possible. This time, the focus was on women and how they wouldn't have sex with him. Like they always do, the media have descended to explain away the madness, and like a Rorschach test, each outlet had its own pet cause primed and ready to be read into the situation. Gun control advocates use the event as an opportunity to campaign for stricter gun control, despite the fact that Roger bought his guns legally and easily passed the background checks. Mental health advocates used it as an opportunity to urge better mental health care, despite that fact that Roger had had a small army of therapists and social workers working with him for practically his entire life. Feminists used it as an opportunity to promote awareness for violence against women, despite the fact that Roger killed indiscriminately and the majority of the victims turned out to be men. Social justice advocates used an opportunity to rail against white male entitlement, despite the fact that Roger was mixed race and a significant number of school shooters have also been minorities. Two examples, Shang-Hyo Cho and Kim Vir-gil. All of these issues are legitimate and deserve conversation. But they're not the singular cause. They're not the point. Because of my book, I'm connected within the men's dating advice industry, and many of them are scrambling right now. Elliot Rodger was a member of a number of sites, email lists, and Facebook groups. And all of these authors and dating coaches, some of them legitimately decent men, others shady marketers, are all frantically trying to cover their tracks as best as possible. But this, quote, witch hunt we go through every time a school shooting happens is a total ruse. Elliot Rodger didn't become a killer because he was a misogynist. He became a misogynist because he was a killer. Just like Eric Harris didn't become a killer because he loved violent video games, he loved violent video games because he was a killer. Just like Adam Lanza didn't become a killer because he loved guns. He loved guns because he was a killer. Every school shooting incident comes in the same dreary package. An angry, politically charged rant, shrink wrapped around a core of mental illness and neglect. These shooters leave behind journals, videos, diagrams, manifestos, and treatises. They broadcast their plans and intentions to their friends and family. They email news outlets minutes before they start firing. They write down their plans and make checklists so that others may follow in their footsteps. They go on angry rants against materialism, hedonism, the government, mass media, women, and sometimes even the people close to them. And each time, as a culture, we work ourselves into a frenzy debating the angry exterior message while ignoring the interior life and context of each killer. We miss the point entirely. Reality check, folks. According to the FBI, mass shootings, defined as shooting events that kill at least 4 people, occur on average, listen to this, every 2 weeks in the United States. Yes, every 2 weeks. Yet, we rarely, if ever, hear about most of them. The reason is because these shootings are easily explainable. In most mass shootings, the crimes occur at a private location, and the victims are people close and well known to the shooter. Family members, neighbors, friends, many of them are attributable to gang violence or illicit criminal activities. Others are a crime of passion. School shootings only account for 4% of all mass shooting, and yet they dominate the news media and get the entire country talking about them for weeks on end. There are a few reasons for this. 1, they occur in every public location which are supposed to be safe. 2, the victims are targeted and killed at random. 3, the victims are innocent bystanders and often children. 4, the killers leave behind large amounts of material about themselves for the media to share. 5, the perpetrator and victims are generally upper middle class, white, and privileged. These shooters know what they are doing. They're not, quote, crazy. They don't just, quote, snap. Most of them spend months or years planning their massacres. Elliot Rodgers had apparently been planning his shooting for over a year. You don't just show up with a 140-page manifesto and a large stockpile of weapons one day. You work at it for a long time, and you plan not only the violence, but the presentation for the audience, the performance, what they will see from you, what they will hear from you, the reasons why, the message. It's all very conscious and deliberate. And it works. Their killing sprees are specifically targeted to generate the most fear and uncertainty from the public, because the more fear and uncertainty they generate, the more attention they get. Then they use all of the attention as a platform to promote themselves or whatever complaints they may have against society. It's the Columbine formula. It works. And as Eric Harris pointed out in his journal, it's not about the guns, it's about the television, the films, the fame, the revolution. It sounds like a familiar strategy. That's because it is. Mass shooting as a non-political terrorism. Listen to this, guys. For those of you that are just joining me, this is Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. I am sharing an article that I found that's a very key point on all these shootings. We're missing the point. We're missing the red flags. We wait until something tragically happens. Why should we wait for that? Mass shootings as non-political terrorism. For a country that is so single-mindedly obsessed with terrorism, it's jaw-dropping that almost nobody recognizing that school shooters use the exact same strategies to disseminate fear and their twisted agendas throughout society. Terrorists use violence and mass media coverage to promote political or religious beliefs. School shooters use violence and mass media coverage to promote their personal grievances and glorification. When viewed in this way, our responses to the school shooters looks juvenile in comparison. Can you imagine arguing over whether Misogyny made Osama bin Laden plan September 11th? Or whether video games caused Dr. Zarnoff to plant bombs at the Boston Marathon? Or whether heavy music inspired Timothy McVeigh to blow up a federal building in Oklahoma City? You would be laughed at, really. And in fact, when anyone goes as far as to suggest that the Islam cause is terrorism, they are immediately and rightfully scolded for it. Yet, when it comes to school shootings, these types of discussions are not only tolerated, but engaged in willfully. It's not that we should respond to school shootings the same way we respond to terrorist attacks. It's that we already do. We just don't realize it. When Elliot's creepy YouTube videos went public, declaring vengeance upon every college girl that wouldn't sleep with him, every woman who had ever heard a guy mutter something similar suddenly felt a chill run up her spine. And that chill caused the video to be posted and reposted, sending more chills up more women's spines until it had spread across the country. My guess is that exactly what Elliot would have wanted. And we've seen this viral dissemination over and over again. After every school shooting episode, writings and videos of the killers get passed around on the internet. Television specials show and re-show the footage. Books are written. Experts are hired. Rinse and repeat. Last year, I wrote that terrorism works because it takes advantage of the psychological inefficiencies in our brains. We pay a disproportionate amount of attention to threatening events, and we always overestimate how likely it is for a random event to happen to us. School shootings transfix us by leveraging that exact same inefficiencies in our minds. And once they've dominated this mindset, or mind space rather, we can't seem to shake them out of it. Yet, for some reason, while we seem to imagine potential terrorists everywhere, in airport lines and stadium gates and subway cars, we never see the school shooters coming. We're always caught by surprise. Hiding in plain sight. Just keep remembering what I've said before. They're right in front of you. When we think of terrorists, we think of some alien, quote, other, the bearded, turbaned man hiding in some cave on the other side of the world, because he's so distant and different. We let him eat at our imagination. We could be anywhere, ready to strike at any moment, hiding in behind every bush, planting a bomb on every bus or plane. We clog our airports and blast warnings through our public buildings for some imagined boogeyman who is never actually present. By contrast, we fail to spot shooter after shooter because they are so close to us and so much like us. We miss them because they are our neighbors, our classmates, our friends, or even our family members. They're right in front of our noses, and we've ignored them for a whole host of trivial reasons. Maybe they're too weird or awkward or they're a loser. We don't want to talk to them. We put our blinders on and pretend that they are not miserable. We pretend that they didn't have that awkward outburst. We pretend that they didn't just make a joke about killing their own parents. Eric Harris' friends later said that he would often joke about blowing up the school and murdering classmates. Even after they discovered he was building bombs in his basement, they never put two and two together. They just couldn't believe it. Not Eric. Not the guy that played video games with and toilet-papered girls' houses with. Meanwhile, the wrong sarcastic word at the airport and you can be held in jail for days. Or I'll add, the wrong word posted on Facebook. They want to arrest you. An FBI study on school shooters found school shootings are never a result of a crazy person, quote, snapping. Most shooters do have serious mental health or emotional issues, but they all plan their attacks months or even years in advance. And as they plan, they almost always, quote, leak information about the attack beforehand, sometimes intentionally and sometimes in incredibly obvious ways. Both Harris and Roger had the police called on them multiple times due to suspicious behavior, but both of them had a history of strange and violent outbursts towards friends and those close to them. Both put their intentions and their angry rants up on the web for everyone to see. Elliot Rogers wrote and rewrote his plan out, sometimes including murdering his family members and stealing their car. He wrote that if someone had searched his room, he would have all come apart. He would have been found out. Eric Harris wrote almost the exact same thing 15 years earlier. Sound who showed the Virginia Tech shooter who killed 32 people turned in paper after paper that depicted gruesome killings and gun violence. He had a history of mental health issues and had been reported to the campus 4 times for aggressive and antisocial behavior, particularly towards women. One of his professors went so far as to tell the board that he would rather resign than to teach another class with him in it. Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook shooter, also had a history of mental illness and inappropriate antisocial behavior, and he too began sharing his intentions online through forum post and audio. Lanza had paranoid delusions about mass media and the government and began to argue that school shootings were justified as a form of protest or revolt. People humored him and ignored him. No one realized he had a small armory of semi-automatic weapons in his house. Then there are those who are simply ignored. Dylan Klebold was suicidally depressed for over 2 years. He fantasized and wrote about killing himself liberally, despite getting into trouble with the law, turning in school settlements that glorified murder and suicide, and failing most of his classes senior year. His parents and friends claimed that they had no idea something was amiss. George Sotony, a middle-aged Pennsylvania man who shot up in an aerobics class full of women, wrote in his journal that since he spent the past 20 years of his life alone and miserable, there was no reason to think that the next 20 wouldn't be lonely and miserable as well. His mother had been emotionally abusive. His father hadn't had a meaningful conversation with him in over 30 years. Simply put, he had nothing to live for. So why not take some revenge on your way out? Gun control gets the headlines. Hello. Mental health care gets the headlines. Violence in video games and misogyny and internet forums and atheism. The list endless at this point. Here's what doesn't get the headlines. Empathy. And that's something I spoke to my class today. That's something I spoke to the classes before. That's something that I talked to my kids about. Do you know the difference between empathy and sympathy? Look it up, Google it, and let me show you some examples. I'm going to repeat this again. Here's what doesn't get in the headlines. Empathy. listening to those around you, and even if you don't like them very much. Despite being relevant and important discussions, the glamorous headlines are all ultimately distractions. They just feed into the carnage and the attention and the fame the killer desired. They're distractions from what is right in front of you and me and the victims of tomorrow's shooting, people who need help. And while we're all fighting over whose pet cause is more right, more true, and more noble, there's likely another young man out there, maybe suicidally depressed, maybe paranoid and delusional, maybe a psychopath. And he's researching guns and bombs and mapping out schools and recording videos and thinking every day about the anger and hate he feels for this world. And guess what? No one is paying attention to him. And I have proven it, that that's exactly what goes on in our schools, people, here in Northwest Indiana. No one is paying attention to them. Teachers, don't let a student that you know doggone well that they're suicidal just walk out just because, and there's no bell ringing saying that you're excused to go. You better be concerned. Red flags are always there. Why weren't these shooters flagged? Questions, answers, solutions? I hear these stories from these children, 7th, 8th graders, 9th graders, but we go as far as elementary. The signs are there, and you people are ignoring it. Look, I'll even look for signs that aren't even there. I have 2 kids, and they can attest to it, that I am looking for every red flag that there may be or not, because I'm proactive, not reactive. Those of you that are listening know what I'm talking about and may agree or disagree. 219-885-1371. We are part of the solution. I am part of the solution. Our youth need to be listened to. They need to be paid attention to. Red flags have been there month after month, year after year. I don't know if anyone's tried calling, but I just could not get interrupted. Anyone that wants to sound off, please do so. 219-885-1371. It's 49 minutes after the hour, and this is serious stuff, people. More serious than you think. I get calls from educators, from people that are out there doing with charter schools or with students in different cities, different school cities. Bullying is so huge, no one's doing anything about it. Oh, we don't want the media to know that this is going on in our school, because then we're going to have less students, because it's going to make us look bad, because we're going to lose some money. Well, newsflash, people, it's all about our kids, not about you, politicians, not about you, the educators, not about you, the administration. It's about our children. Less children in your school, less money. Get it together. Get a grip on yourself. But more than anything, save that child's life. Raise those red flags. Don't ignore them. Don't turn your back on them, because then you're going to wish you coulda, woulda, shoulda. As I tell you, don't live with regrets. We need to step up to the plate. Stop pointing fingers and saying, I shouldn't, or it's their responsibility, or I'm not their babysitter. I'm just the teacher. And newsflash, teachers, if your children aren't learning the way you teach, start teaching the way they're learning. You're listening to Sound Off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio. 219-885-1371 is the call-in number. It's 51 minutes after the hour, and the weather is just going to get better and warmer, but we're still going to get some complaints, right? We're still going to say, it's too hot in here. Look, I don't like sweating, but I'm not going to complain. I didn't complain when we had the 30 degrees below zero. I didn't complain we had all those inches of snow. I didn't complain at all. So whatever's going to come, it's going to come anyway. Just make the best of it, right? It's sunny. It's got a lot of clouds out there. I can see the sun striking right through our window. It's beautifully shining. I'm trying to load here to get me some weather here coming up. It went as high as 84 degrees. Here in GI, it's going to drop to 64 degrees and cloudy, but the sun is shining so beautifully that it doesn't matter how many clouds you have out there. Tuesday, we're going to have, and this is June 3rd already. Wow. Tomorrow, mañana, June 3rd, Tuesday. We're going to have high 80 degrees, mostly sunny and warm, and at night 59 degrees, increasing clouds. Then for, what happened? Skip the ad. You know, everybody trying to get commercials out of the weather as well. But we're not going to feel it as warm come Wednesday. 70 degrees, rain, some heavy and thunderstorm. Not as warm. Storms can bring downpours and damaging winds. Precipitation 75%. Then at night, it's going to drop to 49 degrees, windy in the evening, and patchy clouds. Then for Thursday, we're going to have a high 67 degrees, partly cloudy. And at night, it's going to be 47 degrees, partly cloudy as well. Friday, we're going to have 74 degrees on the high, partly sunny, and at night it's going to drop 53 degrees, but clear. And come Saturday, we're going to have high 78 degrees, partly sunny, and at night it's going to drop to 64 degrees, cloudy, with a thunderstorm late. So we're going to get some showers towards the end of the weekend, and Sunday, 83 degrees, a couple of showers, and a heavy thunderstorms. Mostly cloudy, warm, and humid. Nighttime 54 degrees, it'll feel like 47 degrees. A thunderstorm in the evening, otherwise mostly cloudy for Sunday, June 8th. So we got some activities going on, and we're going to get back to 73 degrees and sunny come Monday. So that is the weather for you guys. It's 53 minutes after the hour. Sound off with E.V.E. here on WLTH Radio, the region's choice, the people's voice. And I don't know if you guys were hearing all this sound in the background, but we do have people walking into the business building here and speaking to people. So with that, I'd like to give a shout out to everyone that knows me personally and socially and professionally. I want to thank you for joining me, and please follow me on Twitter at @official_EveG. It's always about it's always being positive, turning every negative into a positive. And don't forget, guys, that we have Dancing with the Stars coming up. Yes, am I going to be dancing? You better believe it. You know, I just love to dance. I have happy feet. I haven't been dancing in a while, but I had the opportunity to do so at the comedy Risa si Ritmo over a week ago. So this is Dancing with the Stars, African American Achievers Youth Corps, Inc., Dancing with the Stars, Saturday, June 14th at 7 p.m., Gary style, the Glen Theater, 20 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. Donation is $15 and at the door $20. WLTH Radio is a kind sponsor of this event, and we're going to have some celebrities from WLTH be Dancing with the Stars as well. They are dancers, they are stars, and I am one of them as well. They said they wanted some Latin blood, some Latin rhythm. Well, they're going to get it there on that day. And who will my dance partner be? You'd be surprised who's going to be. Someone that actually has happy feet, or not happier feet than mine, on the dance floor. And we just dance in cadence, and we actually perform the songs. And when I say perform, you'll see what I'm saying, because we talk as the lyrics go with the music. So I know that Natalie's going to be a star there as well. Michael Brown as well. Let's see, Jamal Washington. I think I heard Latrice and Dinah will be dancers. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's going to be an awesome night. If you want to purchase tickets, please do so. Check us out here at WLTH Radio, 885-1370, or contact me or email me or follow me on Twitter, and you get that information on Facebook as well. WLTH Radio. This is Sound Off with E.V.E. It's 55 minutes after the hour, and we do apologize that we do not have Coach's Corner. It's been he's been on a family situation, so we just keep him and his family in our prayers. Prayer is good, and it does good, and I thank you guys as well for praying for my family, for my mom, because prayer should never be stopped whether you're having a great day or not. Actually, pray and be thankful that you're having a great day, and you'd be surprised what it does. And again, thank you for joining me. Off to another thing going on. We're going to start practicing our dancing. All those that are going to be Dancing with Stars, well, good luck to all of you, and let's keep on dancing the night away. This is Monday. Have a great evening. Be safe. This is WLTH, the region's choice, the people's voice. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing, at 6 o'clock. With that, you guys be careful out there and enjoy what you have left of the day. Remember, don't take a day for granted, and live a day at a time. Peace with you guys. Love you.